Hey everyone, Shamrocked here. Welcome back to Resto Shaman 101. For the next couple of videos, we will be going over the major throughput cooldowns for the Resto Shaman class. If you haven't watched part 1 or part 2, I would encourage you to go back and do so. In order to get the most bang for your buck on our cooldowns, you will need to have at least a general understanding of how to synergize our normal abilities that I explained in part 2. The essence of Shaman healing in general is lining up our throughput cooldowns with incoming damage windows, and then blasting while these cooldowns augment our standard abilities. Resto Shaman has the following major cooldowns. Ancestral Guidance and Ascendance are both throughput abilities that duplicate normal healing done and then redistribute to the group. Healing Tide is a set and forget throughput cooldown that does healing over time to all allies. And Spirit Link Totem is a unique ability that redistributes the health of all allies standing in the totem range, while also providing a 15% damage reduction. To keep this video nice and short, we will be looking at Ancestral Guidance alone first. Although previously one of our strongest throughput abilities for the majority of the Dragonflight expansion, Ancestral Guidance did receive a 60% nerf going into the pre-patch for the War Within. That being said, it is quite possible that with further tuning going into the new expansion, or even into upcoming seasons, that it will receive buffs to put it at least somewhat back in line to the power it previously had. Even with the nerf, Ancestral Guidance is a strong ability for a few reasons. First, it is our only throughput cooldown that fuels Cloudburst Totem. Second, it can directly synergize with our Ascendance cooldown, creating an unstoppable force when paired together. And finally, Ancestral Guidance is on a smooth 2-minute cooldown, meaning you will get 2 to 3 uses depending on how long a boss fight lasts. The 2-minute cooldown timer also lends itself to making Ancestral Guidance a go-to ability when throughput is needed during trash pulls. It's probably the throughput cooldown that you will be using the most throughout an entire key. So, what does Ancestral Guidance actually do? For 10 seconds once activated, Ancestral Guidance will cause 10% of all healing you do to be replicated and bestowed upon 3 nearby allies. Sounds simple enough, but there are a few important notes to further understand how this ability works, which I will attempt to demonstrate with some amateur PowerPoint images. First, the 10% duplicated healing is not split among the 3 injured allies. Each ally will receive the full 10%. Second, the tag Injured Allies means that it will always prioritize allies with missing health over allies with full health. An important distinction here, however, is that Ancestral Guidance will not discriminate between targets who have more missing health, meaning if everyone in the group is missing various amounts of health, Ancestral Guidance will unfortunately not prioritize those allies who have more health missing than others. And third, Ancestral Guidance does not duplicate healing done by totems, meaning it will not duplicate healing done by Healing Stream Totem, Cloudburst Totem, or Spirit Link Totem. That being said, there are a few important interactions that work in Ancestral Guidance's favor. All healing that Ancestral Guidance does will feed into your Cloudburst Totem if it is down, meaning it is always a good idea to drop Cloudburst Totem right before going into an Ancestral Guidance window. Additionally, as mentioned earlier, the extra healing done with the Ascendance cooldown, which we will talk about in the next video, will also feed into your Ancestral Guidance healing, which in turn will double dip into Cloudburst healing as well if you are using all 3 abilities at the same time. Keeping this in mind, pairing Ancestral Guidance with Ascendance is an insanely powerful combination, but I will discuss that a little bit more when we talk about Ascendance. Ancestral Guidance by itself, although not as powerful as it once was, is still an important tool in our kit for keeping up with high damage windows. Do you remember the tips from the last video regarding Primordial Wave and Chain Heal? For a quick refresher, the additional healing wave cleaves from Primordial Wave will receive the undulation buff if you use Healing Wave while your undulation counter is at 1. And Chain Heals are made immensely more effective when cast with High Tide and Flow of the Tides. Since Ancestral Guidance replicates healing you do with standard spells, it is important to maximize your healing as much as possible during your Ancestral Guidance window. And if you do this while Cloudburst Totem is down, it is quite an effective 1-2 punch combination. Here's an example of me performing this on the Bromac boss damage phase from the Uldaman dungeon. You can see what abilities I am casting on the ability tracker on the top left corner. As we approach the damage window, I will get Riptide on all allies and get my undulation counter to 1, as well as drop a Cloudburst Totem. I will also try to proc High Tide as well if possible. Then, as the damage begins, I cast my Primordial Wave affected Healing Wave on a group member to proc all of the Healing Wave cleaves. A trick of the trade that not a lot of Resto Shamans know: because the Primordial Wave cleaves are delayed by about a second after you cast the initial Healing Wave, you can actually use Ancestral Guidance immediately after your first Healing Wave and it will still affect all of the cleaves due to this delay, saving you a second or two on your Ancestral Guidance cooldown since you were able to pop it after the Healing Wave cast instead of before. You will notice that this combo will usually top up the group, or at least come close to it. After that is completed, I will now use my chain heals on low duration Riptide targets in order to utilize the Flow of the Tides buff. Towards the end of the damage phase, or if I feel like I am falling behind and can't catch up, I will recall Cloudburst for a burst of healing that should top up the entire group. And voila! This is one of the most effective healing throughput combos you can do as a shaman for very minimal mana cost. And due to Ancestral Guidance short cooldown, you can do this every 2 minutes. Insane value even though it's in a nerfed state. You can imagine how powerful this ability was before the 60% nerf it just received. One last thing I will mention for Ancestral Guidance is that the individual healing ticks it can do are capped at 20% of your maximum health. This usually isn't that important, but if you are ever trying to squeeze the most healing possible out of Ancestral Guidance, you can use abilities that increase your health pool, like Ancestral Vigor, Downpour, Earth Elemental, and Ancestral Protection Totem. However, those are pro min-maxing strats that you can work on once you have mastered the cooldown on its own. For a bit more reference, I will play a couple more clips of Ancestral Guidance windows. I hope this video helped you out. Stay tuned for the next video where we will go over Ascendance and Healing Tide. Happy healing!
Ice consume you! Be frozen and shatter! Ice consume you! We'll build a new world, free from their corruption. Let me show ya the power of the elements!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.